paranormal, UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your hosts, Dr. Dean Bertram and Jen Durrell.
Well, hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
How is it in the great state of Missouri tonight?
It's pretty good. It's pretty humid. How about Wisconsin?
Yeah, it was a nice sunny day here. Our humidity has been pretty high as well. But other than talk about the weather, I know you were at your job that we talk about, the haunted location that we cannot mention. And I know you were inside that location by yourself for a big part of today.
Yes. Yes.
Anything paranormal or strange happen?
No, not for pretty much the same stuff as usual. But there was one thing because I was busy cleaning a restroom, bathroom. It's very exciting. And I went to the other side of the home and the cleaning area, and I heard somebody talking, and we tried to debunk it in some way, and we couldn't. So there was a woman talking. So that's about it.
Huh? And there was
didn't make
nobody
out what
there?
she was saying, but yeah.
Huh. Maybe we can bring that up with our guest tonight, who I know
Of course,
you
yes.
are super excited that we're having on. She's the owner of the famous Bellaire House in Ohio and is a profound psychic medium and a metaphysician who has helped many people with various life obstacles and traumatic paranormal experiences. She is also a very experienced paranormal investigator, has appeared on numerous television programs, and is the author of 2 books titled 1699 Belmont Street and Paranormal Confessions. So I'm delighted to welcome to the show, Kristin Lee.
Hello, Kristen.
Hi, how are you doing? Hi.
We're doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing good, thanks.
It's great. It's great to have you here with us. I'm always fascinated with people who actually own haunted locations. How did you initially come to purchase the Bellaire House?
We purchased it because our home it was washed away by floodwater, and we had to find new place to live. And I found it on a foreclosed list, and it started all of this big journey.
So were you somebody who did you have an interest in the paranormal prior to that, or that was what?
None. No, I had no idea that there was even paranormal equipment. The most that I'd ever known about ghosts was like Scooby-Doo, Casper. I watched a lot of horror films when I was little, but no, nothing. I didn't know that I never even watched Ghostbusters. I finally watched it I don't know, it was during, that time of all of our lives. So we were all watching TV. That's when I finally sat down and watched half of I haven't even really finished it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it was a change of life. It was a change of lifestyle for sure,
So when you were younger, you didn't, sorry.
No, you go.
When you were younger, you didn't have any type of hint of a paranormal experience? Because I know you're a medium as well. So that's kind of spiked my curiosity whether or not you've had experience beforehand.
Yeah, I did, but I didn't. They weren't like the Bellaire House. They weren't malicious. Okay. They weren't, I didn't know. I thought that stuff was just ghost stories. I didn't know that that was true. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I did. I was always, people think that meditation is just you sit there and you have to be very calm and I can't do that. I'm all over the place sometimes. Yeah. But soaking up the sun, we know that's solar energy and that equates to masculine energy. And within metaphysics, you can gain strength from solar energy. And with manifestation, if you are setting out your intentions onto the sun, that I did at a very, very young age, they manifest quicker. I remember there was a time where there was a little girl that I was playing with that wasn't a real little girl. And there was confirmation there from some elders that were with me. That turned out the little girl had died, and her mother was shaking me. I was a child. I mean, I was a little girl. And it scared me because I didn't understand what I did wrong.
Yeah.
And then my grandmother took me out by the chicken coop and and told me about myself. And at that point, I was still young and I still didn't fully understand it. But over life, there's visions, there's signs, there's spiritual paths that we take. And if we listen to them and if we follow them, we can be led down a road of major spirituality. I just always thought that it was like puppy dogs and butterflies and, purple popsicles. I didn't think that it was like, something pushing you down, something holding you down, something scratching a paranormal investigator. I didn't know. I thought that's what human beings did. I didn't know that that's what actual spirit could do.
Yeah.
So I guess I was pretty sheltered as a child, with a whole bunch of positives. And I mean, there were times when, the older kids in our little town, it really wasn't a town, it was my mother's family really that lived there. That, like older cousins and stuff would say spooky things. And there were, ghost stories of, a man being decapitated on the train tracks. And every Halloween he'd walk around looking for his head. Ooh,
Yes.
that was scary. And, then we had a very prominent family in our little town. It was called Crabapple. And they were, again, like the Hetherington family at the Bellaire House, they were coal mining tycoons. And there was a lady that would always like peek out of the window. She never came out of the house. And my cousins always told me, if you go up there and the lady's peeking out of the house, she's going to take you and eat your brains out, stuff like that. But then 9 years later, my little cousin came into the world, and then she got that initiation, and it finally went away from me. So, it was that kind of thing, but not full-fledged, like, let's hook up equipment, let's hook up the DVR systems, and let's do a full-fledged investigation, from the best scientific level that we possibly can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely a change of life, for sure.
For sure. Yes. I actually read your book, so I'm going to put it up here so people can see. Yes.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
This book is awesome. I've been reading it all week. And to start it off, I think the history is quite interesting. Do you want to talk about the history of the house?
Sure. Yeah, it's long. It's a long history lesson.
Yeah, I know.
So Jacob Hetherington is like the main character of this whole entire history. He came over from England when he was 18 years old, and he met a man named Captain Fink, who ran all the industry up and down the Ohio River. And Captain Fink owned all the coal mines at that point. And then he hired Jacob to be a coal miner. And then Jacob became a coal mining tycoon and bought Captain Fink out. There's another man that founded Bellaire. His name's Jacob Davis. And all three of them together with Reverend Truman of the Methodist Church in Bellaire, it still stands. They were all abolitionists. So, the Bellaire House is part of the Underground Railroad. The Bellaire House is part of Jacob Hetherington's land. There is Native American caves behind the house where Shawnee and Khoi, they want to be referred to as Khoi through data collections. Iroquois did actually live in Bellaire and fought the French and Indian War in Bellaire. There's some things I didn't write in the book, like Marilyn Monroe and JFK rendezvoused in Bellaire at the Kachinka House. But, and I didn't know that until I had no idea until my mom's friend. We met in his office, and we were just doing, estate business and stuff like that for a death in the family. And he said, "Oh yeah, you're that lady that owns that house. We don't talk about like not my name or the Bellaire House. Kristen Lee, that lady and that." But he's the one that filled me in on that story. So I thought that was cool because we have a picture of Marilyn Monroe in the Bellaire House before I even knew that. So it's a great big oil painting that a man named Jack painted for me. So, you know, there's Lyde Hetherington, who overtook the businesses after her father was committed to a lunatic asylum. Her and her brother Edwin lived in the Bellaire House, and Edwin was a seer. And that's just modern day psychic medium, if people don't know what seer means. But he actually, Lyde died in the house, and he wanted to connect to her to the afterlife, in the afterlife. So he brought in a whole bunch of people from all over the world. And some people even came in from England to come to the Bellaire House to help him try to connect to his sister. You know, psychics, mediums, some are legit, some are charlatans. So we're not real sure what exactly Edwin went through, but he became so fascinated with the art of mediumship, he dove into it too. So we think, and we don't have proof, this is just theory, that he, you know, he helped open up some portals in the Bellaire House. There had been families that lived there, and some of them had reported no activity while they lived there, while later in the years of the Bellaire House being noticed, there was one lady that came through that said she spent a lot of her time there as a child with one of the families that said that there was nothing that ever happened there. And she actually went on national television on, what was it, Most Terrifying Places, and did her testimony on what had happened to her inside of that house while that family lived there. So that was a lot of validation. And then I think that when the locals finally saw a local go on national TV, and then, you know, throwing down historical documents like we're playing poker at the casino, just, you know, had to stand real firm to my grounds, and not, you know, not let the mean kids knock me off the street like my cousins did when, you know, they were telling me the ghost stories. You know, then I think it kind of turned around. But you know, we finally got that validation that Edwin really did live in that house. And the boys, the Chicago boys, came down, and then Landon Wells came down from Georgia, and they actually found that piece of documentation that I had spent years finding, and I wasn't able to find it. So then when they took it to our local attorney, he didn't want them to leave the office because he had always disputed my claims. And the most ironic thing happened the next day. I saw him the next day after the boys left. In his mouth, I mean, he looked like Casper the Friendly Ghost. You know, he was white as a sheet. And I'm just like, Mr. Fizzy, it's good to see you too. Have a great day. Wave on, like Jimi Hendrix says, wave on. So, I mean, and the guys had it recorded, and I will never just, you know, I'll never publicize that, but I have it, and that's all that matters. So, there's a lot. I mean, I'm sure I'm missing other parts of it too, but there's a lot of history at the Bellaire House for sure. Yeah.
It definitely is. I didn't know if Dean wanted to ask a question because I jumped in.
No, I always hog the guests all the time, but the paranormal's actual investigations is more your thing, Jen. So you keep going. I mean, actually, I'll ask one question, then I'll throw it back to you. This fascinates me sometimes, the idea that psychic abilities somehow travel along family lines. And you mentioned your grandmother, when you first became aware of these kind of things, took you behind the chicken coop or something and explained it to you. Does that mean there was a long tradition in your family?
I thought it was from their side of the family for years and years and years. My grandmother was very spiritual. She believed in Christ. She was she spoke in tongues. That was that one part of my grandma. But when I did Ancestry.com, I realized that my father's family was from Bohemia, which is Romania, and they were a gypsy. So I have the whole, and I know we're not supposed to say that word. I always I always got in trouble, for saying it when I was little. I get that now. And then I was always threatened the gypsies are going to come and get you if you're not good. And if you don't sit still in church, the gypsies are going to take you away. So I get where that came from. Right. But no, I feel very strongly that it probably came from both sides, because grandma and, chicken coop grandma Frances, that's a real name. She was so spiritual. And my mom, I mean, she's so spiritual. She tells me that when she lays down at night, she can actually see people's faces, and she starts to pray for them. So I do feel like they are both, well, Graham's not here anymore, but they're both very, very gifted. And my aunt is very gifted too. But I don't think that any other of my family members are as out of the closet with it as I am. I'm so sorry. I have cats.
No, it's fine. I got pets too. I'm surprised he's quiet. So
yeah. So, I mean, I do feel like it is passed down because, I have 2 boys, and they're very, very highly intuitive. My oldest son is so smart. He's just such a brainiac. But my other son, it was funny because I do work full time as a psychic medium, and I heard him pacing outside of my bedroom one day, and I walked out and I'm like, Lane, what are you doing? He's like, I'm giving a psychic reading. I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah. I was like, that's cool, bro. I was like, that's really cool. I said, but could you keep it down? Because I'm like legit giving psychic readings, and these people are paying me. And he's like, oh, people pay you to do stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah, if you work for the right companies, they do. So now, like his new job, he wants to be a full-time psychic, and that's cool. I mean, I'll support that for him, but he's got to learn the basics, and it just doesn't happen overnight. There's so many different things that you have to study. I wouldn't just go into it as intuition and gut feelings. I would totally study metaphysics, energies, planetary alignments, astrology, the planetary timepiece, herbology, aromatherapy, like anything that you can actually learn that could help somebody, and then build in different saints, different angels, different deities, because, I work all over the world as a psychic. And, one day I might talk to somebody that's in Iraq. The next day I might talk to somebody that's in India. Sometimes it might be somebody in New York. Sometimes it might be somebody coming out of Hong Kong. It's just, you really don't know who's going to be calling or who's going to be inquiring to speak to a deceased loved one or just get career advice, love advice. It's always love advice, guys, always.
Oh my.
He's going to call me. What's he thinking about me right now? Does he love me? Will he leave his wife?
No.
I mean, and I try to be nice. I do, but there's just some, and I don't candy coat it. If I don't know and I think it's redundant, I'm like, you're being redundant. These are some things that spirit just doesn't want you to know. Yeah. And then it's like they hang up on you. But I'm not gonna fake it. It's just, I can't do that. So being true to myself, and true to, the oath that I took to help the most people. I think that I was very blessed with that because, getting up and doing the 9 to 5 in the counseling psychology world, dealing with addictions, dealing with crisis, really, challenged people, cognitive challenges, physical challenges. That was tough. And then in doing the forensic psychology and having to be empathetic with, I'm so sorry. I forgot to turn my phone off. Being empathetic with like a sexual predator. I mean, I at this point, I'm trying to crucify them, but in my mind, I know that's wrong. So I had to jump out of that field, And when I did, I went into being a college director of a business college, and then I just went full-time psychic, and I haven't gone back to the mundane since then. Yeah.
Can you tell us how that process works? I'm always interested in the mediumship process and people who have feelings and sensitivities, but I have no idea how it actually comes across through you. Can you give me any insight to that?
Well, I think a couple years ago, my husband and I were driving to, I think, Gettysburg or something. And we were talking about that. Like, where does this stuff come from? Like, how does this information come to us? Right. So the best thing that I can come up with, the best theory that we came up with really is that once you spend so much time building that rapport in the spirit realm, whether it be with, God, Jesus, Joseph, San Expedito, San Miguel, whoever it is that you are building that rapport with, it's like knocking on grandma's door, knock, knock, knock. Hey, it's me again. I'm here. Do you have any messages for me? Can you help me help this person? But how it physically comes through, sometimes I'll get physical sensations, but that's normally how someone died. Like I'll feel like, oh, ye gads, I don't feel good up here. Like, did they have a heart attack? Or I don't normally ask that. I just say they had a heart attack, right? But I'm much nicer than that, or you hear a bang, bang, and you're like, oh, good Lord. And you're like, okay, so I'm feeling like there was a gun here. There was somebody that was shot in the head here. And you can hear the actual like residual part of it, but you can actually feel like the residual feelings of it. But then there's some times where it's just like telepathy. And this is where names come through, like first, last names. And sometimes they're in English and sometimes they're not. And it took me years to learn how to trust the ones that weren't in English, because that's my primary language. But I would just say, it sounds to me like they're saying this name and this name. And turns out it's their deceased loved ones' names. But then there's pictures too. There's like little snippets of pictures, kind of like how my mom, when she calls and she says, I'm seeing people's faces and I just don't know what they need, but I'm going to pray for them. Yeah. I'm able to see, and I've been past maybe 2 years, I've been able to tap into this realm of spirit to where I can actually see where people live. So I know that when we do transition to the afterlife, we do have houses. I'm getting chills upon chills right now.
Oh my gosh. Now that you just said that, you're giving me chills, because I know something.
Yeah, I mean, I look like that chicken skin. You have to peel the skin back so you don't get fat from the skin. But but that does happen. Like a couple of days ago, I was doing a reading and there was a man that was on his front porch in brown slacks in a log cabin, but he had all these books behind him. And it was like just a regular cabin, but in the middle was this big lake. And then all around the lake was the rest of his family members that had transitioned. So calling out like their first names and stuff like that, that does happen. And I've had to really trust what I hear. And I know it's coming from spirit, because where else would it? Well, biblically, well, and Catholicism, they could say I'm possessed, but I don't think it's that. I feel like it's more mysticism, and I feel like it's more God-given talent, God-given gift to be able to help the most people, because that's what I asked for. I asked for in the light of God to be able to help the most people. But then we got to take into the account of the Bellaire House and the crazy stuff that goes on there, and kind of just some days there's just like I can't. And then I get back up the next day, Yeah.
Do you suspect, it sounds like you have some encounters then with spiritual beings that might be malevolent or demonic or something like that?
Well, yeah, but not through psychic readings and stuff like that. Like, I have a place that I go to that's pretty cleansed. I mean, I cleanse the crap out of it because you have to, and it's in my home. And, if we like say this was the place that I read all the time, and I'm reading here, 50, 60 hours a week, which I did for years. And now I'm only doing 10 to 15 hours a week because I can't go that fast anymore. It does create a portal. It does. And if you don't close the portal, if you don't properly take care of your space where you're reading or your counseling, then you're gonna end up with a lot of different kinds of energies, maybe some dead people at the foot of your bed. Hey, I have a message for so-and-so. I'm like, well, I can't get a hold of them. They have to call me. Go and tell them to call me, and maybe they will, and they do. And I'm like, well, yeah, he was actually here at the foot of my bed a couple nights ago, and this is what he said, and it's strange. it's definitely in the confirmations. I mean, I would think I was really crazy if the people that I've never met, I don't know what they look like on the other end of the phone lines. If I didn't know what they, and even through chat, like I do chat too. And every now and then I'll do like live feeds and stuff like that and do readings. And just by text messages. And I don't know these people. I just ask for first names and tune in, and what comes through comes through.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird. It's definitely weird. It is. I think it's nice, but it's weird. It's not the way, it's not the way it's not the way our society raises us to behave or believe.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. So
Mhm.
out of curiosity, because when I was younger, I dabbled in that and had a little thing happen to me when I was younger because I didn't really know what I was messing with. So how did you learn to, like, what does one person do to close a portal?
Well, everybody does it different. What I do is, and this is really bad for wood, so don't do it on wood unless you know you're gonna get rid of the wood or have glass on top of it or something. But I get kosher salt, and I use a lot of kosher salt and a lot of frankincense, a lot of myrrh, and I mix them together, and then I just wash it down. Now, on Sundays in the hour of 1:00, which is the hour of God, I always do vinegar. I wash all of the windows in that room and the mirrors in that room, because I always have a mirror facing the window, so nothing can, like, if there's any kind of negative energy that's going to try to come in, it'll see its reflection and go the other way. So I always wash those with vinegar. Some people wash them with mugwort, like the herb mugwort. I was taught to do it with vinegar. But yeah, you douse it all down. Then just a couple of different prayers and things like that you can do. There's symbols and stuff that you can make with the kosher salt too. There's symbols that you can make with, sometimes I'm MacGyver when I have to be. I'll use lipstick and I'll make those symbols, and then close the door, you know, and let it sit
Whatever
for a while.
works. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever's on hand, really. Yeah. So, you know, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, you know. But yeah, that's one way to do it. And I know there's other people, like when you're closing Ouija boards, which I do not recommend using. You know, people close them differently. People close portals differently. Like when we are closing a portal in the Bellaire House, we're not going to do it like that. We're going to do a full-fledged ceremony ritual, get, you know, a candle that's typically black and filled with onyx and filled with like crushed onyx and different properties, different kinds of oils and different herbs, and do different types of like pagan prayers, and then we throw the wax on top of the portals, and just let it stay like that. And then there's other things too, which I can't really disclose that part of it because it is part of ceremonial stuff that I was taught not to disclose. So,
is there a ceremonial tradition you follow? Like, is it a specific tradition or?
Yeah, it's Strega. It's Italian witchcraft is what I had done prior. But, you know, I'm kind of in that, I've stepped out of it. It's hard to not wake up in the morning and meditate to like Diana, like it's the feast of Diana right now. And I didn't go to the river and put in, you know, the rice boats and put the candles in it and let it go down the river like we always do. We didn't have a feast like we always did. I asked my husband the other day, I was like, are you still a witch? And he said, yeah, and I'm not going to not be one. He's like, I can't wait till you get off of this religious kick because of what happened to you. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to. And I was like, does that mean we're going to get a divorce? And he said, no. But yeah, I mean, it's a big spiritual journey that I'm on right now, because of some pretty awful things that had happened in the Bellaire House. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about those? Or?
I had a major attachment, huge attachment, really bad attachment. Some people were in there doing things that they shouldn't have done, and they had no good intent at all, none. The person that was actually performing the ritual, I don't feel that they had malicious intent, but at all. But the people that were actually filming it were the ones that had the malicious intent. And I ended up getting a really bad attachment where I lost, well, they smelled sulfur, and I couldn't smell it. Then everybody said that it tasted like they were on a subway. You know, how what subways can smell and taste like sometimes. And I couldn't taste that. Then all of a sudden I had like this dirt thrown in my eyes, and I thought it came from the ceiling, but it didn't, because they took me upstairs and I was flushing out my eyes. There was nothing in there. Then I went home, and when I woke up, I had no voice, and I was sure I had COVID. I knew it. I was like, in my mind, I can't taste, I can't smell, I'm freezing. And then 5 minutes later, I'm burning up. And then I couldn't move. It's like I had a great big stake in my back, to where, you know how we can move our head side to side. I couldn't. I had to like move like this to look at people. And then I went and got a rapid COVID test, and it wasn't that. So thank goodness I didn't have that. But it took me a while to get out of bed. There was a lot of contemplation, premeditation, suicidal ideations. It was awful. A lot of behavior changes. Very, very, very irritable. I didn't want to be around people. I even had to take time off from work, because I just couldn't. I couldn't find that happy, jolly, person. And then I had to get. I did some Reiki. A Reiki practitioner, a local one. She had to do 4 sessions on me. One of the sessions, the light bulb above her exploded. Then she called me a couple weeks ago, and she said, "I've got some activity in my house." And I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "I will come and, help you. But I told you what was going to happen." Like, I didn't tell her that, the light bulb was going to explode, or she would have activities. Like, this, what I have on me is for real. And do you want to do this? Because if you don't, I don't want to put you in a position where you don't want to do something. I said, "But this is legit what I have." And then I did the prayer of deliverance, and I had to, I decided to accept Jesus Christ as my savior, and leave the craft. And I did. But, I haven't, like I said, it's hard because, 30 some years of waking up every morning and going out into the hills and meditating to Yamaya or Abatala, and now it's just like Jesus, Joseph, Mary, and God. I got to build that relationship with them. And I've not, really built that strong relationship with them. But I will tell you this, since I've made that decision, so many different cool things have happened to me. Like, I sat and I spoke with a preacher today for about 2 hours, and the information that he gave me regarding the Bellaire House I would have never, ever, ever found that out. Never, because, it's like here in Bellaire, I can't go to the grocery stores. I'm a big fish in a very small pond.
No.
You know what I mean? And they think,
that.
they think Kristin Lee the witch, Kristen Lee the Satanist, and I'm not. But it's hard to go in there for, a bottle of core water or a Snickers bar, and then you're pointed at, witch, you're a witch.
No.
Or silly things like that. If they stop you, is your house really wanted? What happens in your house? It's like, dude, I just want a Snickers bar, man. Can you please have it? So, when I need to say it, but when COVID happened, we kind of upped the ante here. But we got things like Instacart, DoorDash, and all these really cool things that you could get in the cities, right? So I just ordered DoorDash and Instacart. I go here in the Bellaire House, and sometimes I'll take my son to work, but and if it's not involving the paranormal community, I just don't play around in the mundane anymore, because, you get that, unless I go outside of the city, or outside of Bellaire, then nobody really understands me or doesn't know me. And isn't that crazy? I feel a lot more safer in like Compton or Inglewood, Illinois, than I do. You know, it's like, take me to the Bronx. Okay. Wait, I can do that, but I'm not going to Kroger and Bellaire.
Oh no. I know people are very mean when they don't understand things.
No, and they don't. They just they don't. But I think that, you know, as our because we're in a village, I think that they're coming more to terms with it now. I really do. Because they're saying that, you know, back in the day it was, you know, I'm doing it because of this reason, this reason, this reason. Now they're saying that, okay, we've tried to knock her off her block so many times. We can't do it. It's not, she's like a cockroach. We can't kill her. And that's right. Because you know what I mean? I'll still be doing this. And guess what? When I'm dead, I'm probably still going to be doing this. And sometimes I'm always like, you know, when the haters come on and they be hating like crazy. And I'm like, you know, I got a direct connect to spirit. So when I die, I'm going to come and haunt your butt. So you better watch it.
Yep.
But, you know, that's all in love. That's all in fun.
Yeah.
Kind of maybe, you know, chip away at their ignorance, you know, because people can be ignorant.
Very true. Since we don't have much left and I've got so many questions, I want to touch base on Edwin because I find him very fascinating because you, when you have investigators over, you guys have a seance and you save a seat just for Edwin. So do you want to talk about him a bit?
Yeah, I like Edwin Hetherington a lot. He is like the ultimate seer. He is the ultimate psychic. I mean, he's sorry, Edwin, but he's dead. And, you know, he can see so many different dimensions. He can see, and, you know, like the core of us. He can be able to tap into us. And I know that Edwin, we have to leave that seat open for him. That's his house. That's his table. No psychic that comes in there, even me, is going to be anywhere near as good as him ever. And having him sit at that table and talk to us and help us. Sometimes we don't just investigate. People actually come to the Bellaire House to reach out to their deceased loved ones through Edwin and through some of the equipment that we have so they can hear their voices. Hopefully, when they hear their voices, they can get closure and they can start a grieving process and then prosper within their lives at being at peace, knowing that their loved one is transitioned, they're still with them, they can still communicate with them, that it isn't just, like I said, Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's legit, it's real. That does happen. But Edwin, you know, he comes and he goes. He's sometimes when the house is super duper crazy, we'll ask for Edwin and he won't be around. So I do know that spirit can travel. I mean, it's almost like they go on a spiritual vacation. And I feel like when he comes back from wherever he goes, then he gets settled again. You know, he was gone there for probably, I'd say, a month's time frame after all of the craziness happened at the Bellaire House, you know, at the end of winter going into spring. But he's back and he has been communicating with us on the regular. So I feel like he's okay with the house right now. But I mean, he worked as he was in the military. He had a draft card. He worked as an accountant for the glassworks company that was here in Bellaire. He felt very guilty that the coal mining problems, like the fires, that was his family's coal mine. People were, you know, perished. They were deceased. He felt guilty because he thought that if it wasn't for his family, these are things that he told us. I mean, these are not things that we can find as in documentation, but these are like sentences that he's actually told us through equipment, not dowsing rods or pendulums. Yes, like legit, like sentences. So, I mean, when you hear stuff like that, I mean, how can you discount that? It's not, I could see if it was like, hi, what's your name, Joe? Okay, well, that could have been a DJ, but you know what I mean? How many are here? 9. Oh, wow, 9 to 1, 2, 3.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that could have been like September, yo. It could have been the month, you know. But when you have like that concrete, like full-fledged sentences, you can't dispute that at all. You just can't. I'll shut up. I'm sorry.
One of your chapters that I do want to bring up, you talk about the star people.
Yeah.
And I love that chapter.
Thanks.
Would you like to talk about that some? Because I would, and I'm sure Dean would have some questions about it too. So
I totally believe there is a higher level of intellect. Aliens, if you will. If you want to call them that, that's fine. But they don't want to be called that. They want it to be called star people. And they legitimately told us that. We said, because I felt it. I felt it. First of all, I was like, I don't think we're just dealing with earthbound spirit. I don't think we're dealing with residual energy. It's not like that. And the other investigator that was working with me, there was too many different intelligent responses that were coming through. And plus the session went for like a couple of hours. So, when we talk to, or when we're trying to communicate or collect data with spirits or earthbound spirits or deceased loved ones, we got 3 to 5 minute window, and that's it. They just, for whatever reason, they lose energy. And I'm not giving them any of mine because I'm getting old and I don't have time to waste my energy. But these star people came through, and we were asking some hardcore questions, man. Like, we were asking global questions. Like, one of the ones was, how do we cure cancer? And there's this powder that you scrape off of gold, and it's ormus. So they say through the Ovilus, which one was it? I think it was Ovilus 5. So we ask, what is it? And I'm looking up ormus, and I'm like, why do I feel like this is Egyptian? Why do I feel like this is Egyptian? And if we correlate, the pyramids and the Lion's Gate and all that other stuff, and then we have the ormus, and then I'm thinking in my head, well, if we can scrape the gold off of ormus, if we can, don't ingest it because aliens told us to do that, so don't do that. I mean, check with your medical doctor first. But it's no different than the silver that we take, like to boost our immune system, right? So silver, gold. So that's when I went in and dove into the research, and I found a study that there was a man, and they do sell this substance, and it's the powder from gold, and it is very, very expensive, but they say that it is a life extension and it can rebuild your DNA. And that's what they said too, that it could change our DNA, it could heal us. We had asked questions like, this was when Hillary and Obama were going to be president, right? Which we didn't know which one it was. And we said, who's going to be the president? And they said, not the woman. And so it's like, so we knew we were all waiting on the edge of our seat to see if it was not going to be the woman. And sure enough, it wasn't. And then we had asked something like, something to where it said the dawn, the dawn. And we took it as a dawn of a new age. But as we saw everything that rolled out, the past couple of years, I wonder, could be dawn, like DON, dawn old. I don't know. I don't know if they were that far advanced to tell us. I mean, and think about it too. I mean, then that kind of goes against our free will, right? You know what I mean? And if it goes against our free will, then like the Calvinistic blueprint of life, that is probably a thing. But I don't want to believe that whole Calvinistic part, we are predestined to do this. And I want to, I'm sorry, but I'm going to live in la la land and believe in free will. That's what I want to believe. So I'm not sure exactly what that part of it was, but then they started using the millimeter and they were doing Morse code. And at that point in time, I had no resources on how to debunk Morse code.
Yeah.
So, but prior to that, like right after we moved out of the Bellaire House, and we went into this real small rinky-dink little townhouse that had like 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a bathroom and a half and a kitchen. That was it. So when we got there, my fuses of my car were unplugged, like the headlight fuses. Like I pulled them out. And my headlights would go in Morse code a lot. I'd just be sitting on the couch, and then the car was parked right in front of the living room window, and it'd be like, bum, 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 bum. What the hell is going on here? And that happened. I mean, that really happened. And one day when I was here on my couch, I sent the video to Dave Spinks. He has the video. There was like this little capsule, this little disc that was just going in and out of the clouds. And what alerted me was my dog Ani was barking at the sky. And I was like, I wonder what she's up to. I wonder if there's like geese or hawks or vultures, what's she barking at? But then I looked up and Dave's like, run outside, see if it's an airplane. Can you hear an engine? And I'm like, I don't hear an engine. And I got the recorder going,
Yeah.
we're sitting there like telephonically trying to debunk this.
Yeah.
From it, is it a weather balloon? Are you, cross line with airplane route, or, is there smoke coming out of it? Like all of this stuff, we couldn't do it. So a couple nights, I'm laying in a hot tub, and you see it again. It appears again, and it lasts for a couple of hours, and then it's finally at night, and then this red thing comes up, and it's the same thing, but it's red, and it's a different part of the sky. And I pull up the I can't remember. It's an application you have on your phone for like night sky is what it's called, where you can point it to the sky.
Yes.
But there was nothing there. And at this point, one night my husband came in because he totally believes, but he came in and he got me out of bed and he's like, come and check this out, that it was back. And he finally got to see it. So I know I'm not crazy. It happened. And it's happened several times. Now, what do they want? Well, I think they are definitely trying to communicate. I don't feel threatened. I feel like I have that higher spiritual sense of self to where I wouldn't discount what the communication, But of course, I'm sure it didn't help with my friend Annie Perone coming and going on my balcony and calling them in either. I'm sure that didn't help at all. I love you. How she goes, I love you so much, my friends. And we did that for a couple of hours, one night. But seeing them with the dog barking, she wasn't here then. And back in the day at the Bellaire House, she hadn't been there at that point either. But when we started to see like the red capsule, she had already been here. So I'm going to blame Andrea for that one. with a lot of love. Yeah, I mean, I know it doesn't. It's not like it's not traditional thinking, but. And I'm not okay, maybe I'm a little bit of a conspiracy. Yeah, okay, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just going to say it. Look what we all just went through, and then how everything was just disclosed about a different life force, and nobody even thought a dang thing about it. Everybody was in panic, and we know that this has been happening. Sometimes I'm like, okay, is ghosts just the first step? Is the hauntings just the first step? I'm pretty sure it is, because then you move on to a different level of spiritualism, a different level of higher intellectual communication with things that, because let's think about it, like multi-dimension spirits can bounce from dimension to dimension, right?
Yeah.
Well, what happens if, some spirit that was at the Bellaire House or one of our ancestors was like, hey, Mr. whatever your star person, go and visit her and give her a little shake. Who knows? Who really knows? I don't know a lot about it, but I know I've had experiences with it. And what I feel the most is that I feel like they're here to help. I don't feel like they're here to harm. I do not. And maybe that's just me being silly and not wanting to believe, like I didn't believe back in the day, that, there are entities and there are malicious entities and everything isn't puppy dogs and roses. And I hope I don't have to find that out with them, but I feel like they were coming here to give us messages. Now I have a TikTok, it's called Paracat 999. There's a specific video that says, you told us, I think it was, I said, you told us that we needed to love harmony music in order to save our world. And then we saw everybody in Italy singing off of their balconies.
Yeah.
So, and I said, so you tell me what is happening to us, what is coming for us. And it said the earth. And I'm like the earth. Yeah. So I don't know what that message was, but they don't come often at the Bellaire House, and they don't come often here. But when they do, it's pretty profound what they say.
Yeah. Well, they said some pretty interesting things in that chapter, like You went, I don't know if it was you, but somebody asked about, how were humans going to die, or like who was going to kill humans, or what was going to, end humanity or just human life. And it said the flu.
Right.
So
right.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then, when we were so silly, we thought the dawn of a new age. But if we're looking at flu, which I don't want to get into politics.
Definitely makes you question. It does. It makes you question and think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't watch TV. I don't watch the news.
I don't either. I had to stop.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. I cannot watch.
Yeah, I just learned that there's fires in California just today. So I didn't know, because I watch the Golden Girls to fall asleep. But
yeah.
It's true.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I found it fascinating, the star people situation we were just talking about, because I haven't read your book. I'm always honest when what I've read and I haven't read. But we had a guest on last week, Joshua Kuchin.
Yes.
And Joshua Kuchin's part of the intellectual tradition, which I guess starts with Jacques Vallée and John Keel, and then there's Patrick Harper, and there's other thinkers in that realm as well. But it essentially suggests that all of this phenomenon, whether it's UFOs or whether it's ghosts or whether it's Bigfoot or whether it's Virgin Mary apparitions or whatever it is, might be a manifestation from some other root phenomenon that we don't understand. So all the phenomena might come back to the root cause. And it's interesting to me that you've had these experiences with all these different kind of entities. And I know we all tend to fall into a belief system. It's just human. But just stepping back for a minute, do you think it's possible that all of these messages and encounters you have that might say, well, I'm a star person, or I'm a spiritual guide, or I'm a demonic entity, or whatever it could be, do you think it could be manifesting from some root cause?
I don't know. I never looked at it that way, but I'm certainly going to start diving into that now and see what I can find out and try to put a correlation to it. That's why I love doing these shows, because you're now making me think, and I would have never thought about looking into that before. So I really don't have that answer, to be truthful with you. I feel like it's phases. I feel like, as we go into a bachelor's program, master's program, doctorate program, I feel like we're geared into like spiritual phases, to where if we are open, not even in collective consciousness, but even if we're just open in the mundane, then it equates to spiritualism. Then the next book, or the next chapter, or the next course, next program would be something else that is supernatural. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know
that's a healthy position to not
go
be
ahead.
entirely sure, I think.
Yeah. I know that people want to believe what they want to believe.
True.
And that's okay. But I'm on the opposite spectrum of that. I want to disbelieve it first, and I want to see it over and over and over again, to where I see it and I feel like it's believable.
Yeah. Yep.
And that can get me in a lot of trouble.
No, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, there's days where I think all of us are crazy. Like, what are we all doing at the Bellaire House? Why are we doing this? We're nuts. Right.
Yeah.
And then there's days I'm like, no, we're not nuts. You put your big girl pants on, get back up on the front lines.
Yeah.
It's time to put your boots back on. I think that's like a little cleansing, or a little mental break from always being in that energy and always being around like-minded people.
Do you find that being around all that, does that do anything to you physically? Because I would think that would.
It does, but I go in packed with iron, and I do. I don't mess around when I deal with people. I'm always protecting myself. I'm always very well preserved with as much kosher salt as I use. I mean, I should have bought stock and lotion. Like, I've had to move up to my husband's men Vaseline intensive care to go on my hands and stuff like that, because the girly stuff just isn't working anymore. But I'm a can of sardines with all the salt. But yeah, I mean, there's so many people that come in, and they don't cleanse themselves. You know, I had somebody that was temporarily homeless that was staying with us, and they work paranormal just as much as I do. And they refused to cleanse themselves, refused to do it. And I said, well, you can't live here anymore unless you start taking care of yourself, because our home is our home. This is where we have to come to sleep. And I'm not going to be disturbed like I was down at that house. So, you know, I've got all of the metaphysical things outside. You know, psychologists, they could call that positive reinforcement, but it's not. It's legit metaphysics. It does help. It really does help. It isn't just a positive reinforcement. But yeah, people, you know, people like Debbie Downers, you know, if you're working, you know, in an office, and, you know, this lady that's in the cube next to you is just like, my boyfriend left me. He left me for somebody that's 30 years younger, blah, blah, blah. And you got to listen to that crap all day. You know, by the time you're done with that, you're ready to eat a ho-ho and go to bed.
Exactly.
You know, God dang, you know. And if you wear your iron nails, and you wear, you know, you kosher salt religiously in the morning and then the evening, you're going to remove all of that negative energy off of your body. I mean, if you wear hyacinth oil, like I've recommended as one of the tips in the book, you know, hyacinth oil is very potent. It's very powerful. I mean, and even if you're not allowed to like light candles, I mean, because good Lord, you don't want to light candles and then have corporate America come down and walk you to the door and say, adios there, little crazy person. You know what I mean? But if you can get like some little oils and stuff like that, and just keep them, you know, maybe in a little jar or something, and dab them here, dab them there, they're still there. It's still the aroma part that's there. And that's, you know, you don't need the earth, wind, fire, water at work. You can do that stuff at home. Good grief. I've seen people do that and just get terminated. You know, like, you can't do that to me. You're violating my 1st and 14th. I'm like, you're dumb. You should be doing that work at work anyway. You're working in corporate America, you big dummy. What do you think is going to happen to you? You know what I mean? I'm sorry. I try to keep it real.
No, that's good. I love it.
You were a fantastic guest, and you were often hilarious and just completely entertaining and compelling. How do people get a hold of your books or follow what you're up to? If you could throw out some URLs or something.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. First of all, you know, the book, if you just go to Amazon and put in Amazon, Barnes and Noble, I think Walmart's carrying it right now online, to be honest with you. Just type in Paranormal Confessions, Kristin Lee. You can find the book there. Our website is BellaireHouseTours.com. But to find me personally, I'm trying to build up my TikTok so I can take, and that's Paracat999, Paranormal. I love cats, and I'm a big Juice WRLD fan. So I just mixed all my 3 favorite things together.
Well, thanks again so much for coming on, Kristin. You were just a wonderful guest. And until we talk again sometime, I hope, please keep it weird.
I will. You too. Thank you.
Weird.
Thank you for joining us tonight. If you're interested in checking out more episodes, you can find us at talkingweird.com. If you haven't already, please like the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talking Weird Podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to Talking Weird. We're available on most podcast platforms and YouTube. And if you do enjoy the show, please leave us a review. Dean and I would really appreciate it. Until then, stay safe and keep it weird.